Hi, Jim Gore from Thor Wealth Management. We've heard from a number of our clients throughout the years that, hey, it seems like things are costing a lot more than what the government is reporting for inflation out there. And in many cases, it actually is higher, and I'm going to explain that in this video. But first, let's talk about why that is. The main reason for that is the government has an incentive to keep the inflation rate low. That's because in 1975, they started to put out COLA adjustments in Social Security. So if inflation went up, people's cost of living would go up, and the government would end up paying more money out to the Social Security beneficiaries. So if we look at this is all the COLA adjustments since 1975. And note here from 1975 to 1980, when we had high inflation, the government was paying out significantly more for those Social Security benefits. But there was a drop from 1980 to 1990. And notice that it dropped, to a third, and it ended up being about 5%, 4.7% in 1990. And that's important. So from 1980 to 1990, there was a drop. But also notice from 1990 that there's been a drop as well in inflation. And, inflation has been half of that. So it sounds good. It sounds like the Federal Reserve is doing their job. Ha. One of the things is you have to realize that they're calculating the CPI differently today than they were in 1980 and 1990. And in this chart here, there's a company out there called Shadow Statistics that has calculated what the inflation rate is today if you use the same measurement as they did for CPI back in 1980. And if you look at this chart, inflation rate is significantly higher than the 1.3% that the government is telling us. It's actually at 9% if we calculate it like 1980. So that was one adjustment. Then they made some other adjustment back in 1990. And you can see in 1990, if they calculated like they did back in 1990, the inflation rate today is actually 5%, not the 1.3%. So the government continues to lower the inflation rate, and they have that incentive to do so because they pay out less money to you. One of the things that they want to do right now, and the government's talked about in Social Security, is chain-linked CPI. Now, chain-linked CPI doesn't sound like it's that big of a difference, but it is a difference. What they do in this chain-link is, let's say they assume that a family of four eats filet mignon twice a month. Okay, and filet mignon cost goes up 30%. Well, that 30%, that's going to be, that's going to be a cost for that family. What they do in the chain link and say, oh, instead of filet mignon, they're going to go out and get a cheaper type of protein. Maybe they get eggs or chicken instead of filet mignon those two nights. So actually, they go ahead and say if they're eating chicken could be significantly cheaper than filet mignon, and it actually reduces inflation at a time when inflation is going up for their filet mignon. And this is a calculation going back to 2000. You can see here that the chain linked CPI over that time period to the current CPI is lower. And so here again, the adjustment is not as great as it was for the change that they made in 1990 or 1980, but it is an adjustment lower. The government will continue to adjust inflation rates lower in the future. They have an incentive because they end up paying less money to their people receiving Social Security benefits. If you don't have your portfolio invested right now to have some inflation protection, you certainly want to have it. We believe inflation is much higher than what the government is reporting, and they're going to continue to buy back bonds and continue interest rates lower for a longer time period. And this is a time that you really want to have your portfolio invested in a way that will do well in an inflationary environment. Take care. If you have any questions, as always, reach out to us. Take care, and we'll talk to you in a couple weeks.